Penguin Random House Audio presents The High Mountains of Portugal by Yann Martel. Read for you by Bramhall. Part 1. Homeless. Tomás decides to walk. From his modest flat on Rua São Miguel, in the ill-famed Alfama district, to his uncle's stately estate in leafy Lapa, it is a good walk across much of Lisbon. It will likely take him an hour. But the morning has broken bright and mild, and the walk will soothe him. And yesterday Sabio, one of his uncle's servants, came to fetch his suitcase and the wooden trunk that holds the documents he needs for his mission to the high mountains of Portugal, so he has only himself to convey. He feels the breast pocket of his jacket. Father Ulysses' diary is there, wrapped in a soft cloth. Foolish of him to bring it along like this, so casually. It would be a catastrophe if it were lost. If he had any sense, he would have left it in the trunk. But he needs extra moral support this morning, as he does every time he visits his uncle. Even in his excitement, he remembers to forego his regular cane and take the one his uncle gave him. The handle of this cane is made of elephant ivory and the shaft of African mahogany, but it is unusual mainly because of the round pocket mirror that juts out of its side just beneath the handle. This mirror is slightly convex, so the image it reflects is quite wide. Even so, it is entirely useless, a failed idea, because a walking cane in use is, by its nature, in constant motion, and the image the mirror reflects is therefore too shaky and fleeting to be helpful in any way. But this fancy cane is a custom-made gift from his uncle, and every time he pays a call, Tomás brings it. He heads off down Rua São Miguel, onto Largo São Miguel, and then Rua de São João de Praça, before turning onto Arco de Jesus, the easy perambulation of a pedestrian walking through a city he has known his whole life, a city of beauty and bustle, of commerce and culture, of challenges and rewards. On Arco de Jesus he is ambushed by a memory of Dora, smiling and reaching out to touch him. For that the cane is useful, because memories of her always throw him off balance. "I got me a rich one," she said to him once, as they lay in bed in his flat. "I'm afraid not," he replied. "It's my uncle who's rich. I'm the poor son of his poor brother. Papa has been as unsuccessful in business as my Uncle Martin has been successful, in exact inverse proportion." He had never said that to anyone, commented so flatly and truthfully about his father's checkered career, the business plans that collapsed one after the other, leaving him further beholden to the brother who rescued him each time. But to Dora he could reveal such things. "Oh, you say that, but rich people always have troves of money hidden away." He laughed. "Do they? I've never thought of my uncle as a man who was secretive about his wealth. And if that's so, if I'm rich, why won't you marry me?" People stare at him as he walks. Some make a comment, a few in jest, but most with helpful intent. "Be careful, you might trip," calls a concerned woman. He is used to this public attention. Beyond a smiling nod to those who mean well, he ignores it. One step at a time he makes his way to Lapa, his stride free and easy, each foot lifted high, then dropped with aplomb. It is a graceful gait. He steps on an orange peel, but does not slip. He does not notice a sleeping dog, but his heel lands just short of its tail. He misses a step as he is going down some curving stairs, but he is holding onto the railing and he regains his footing easily. And other such minor mishaps. Dora's smile dropped at the mention of marriage. She was like that. She went from the light-hearted to the deeply serious in an instant. "No, your family would banish you. Family is everything. You cannot turn your back on yours." "You are my family," he replied, looking straight at her. She shook her head. "No, I am not." His eyes, for the most part relieved of the burden of directing him, relax in his skull like two passengers sitting on deck chairs at the rear of a ship. Rather than surveying the ground all the time, they glance about dreamily. They notice the shapes of clouds and of trees. They dart after birds. They watch a horse snuffle as it pulls a cart. They come to rest on previously unnoticed architectural details in buildings. They observe the bustle of traffic on Rua Cais de Santarém. All in all, it should be a delightful morning stroll on this pleasant, late December day of the year 1904. Dora, beautiful Dora. She worked as a servant in his uncle's household. Tomás noticed her right away the first time he visited his uncle after she was hired. He could hardly take his eyes off her, or get her out of his mind. He made efforts to be especially courteous to her and to engage her in brief conversations over one minor matter after another. It allowed him to keep looking at her fine nose, her bright, dark eyes, her small white teeth, the way she moved. Suddenly he became a frequent visitor. He could remember precisely the moment Dora realized that he was addressing her not as a servant, but as a woman. Her eyes flitted up to his, their gazes locked for a moment, and then she turned away, but not before a quick, complicit smile curled up a corner of her mouth. Something great was released within him then, and the barrier of class, of status, of utter improbability and unacceptability vanished. Next visit, when he gave her his coat, their hands touched, and both lingered on that touch. Matters proceeded swiftly from there. He had, until then, had experience of sexual intimacy only with a few prostitutes, occasions that had been terribly exciting and then terribly depressing. He had fled each time, ashamed of himself and vowing never to do it again. With Dora it was terribly exciting, and then terribly exciting. She played with the thick hairs of his chest as she rested her head on him. He had no desire to flee anywhere. "Marry me, marry me, marry me," he pleaded. "We will be each other's wealth. No, we will only be poor and isolated. You don't know what that's like. I do, and I don't want you to go through it." Into that amorous standstill was born their little Gaspar. If it were not for his strenuous pleading, she would have been dismissed from his uncle's household when it was discovered that she was with child. His father had been his sole supporter, telling him to live his love for Dora in precise opposition to his uncle's silent opprobrium. Dora was relegated to invisible duties deep within the kitchen. Gaspar lived equally invisibly in the Lobo household, invisibly loved by his father, who invisibly loved his mother. Tomás visited as often as he decently could. Dora and Gaspar came to see him in the Alfama on her days off. They would go to a park, sit on a bench, watch Gaspar play. On those days they were like any normal couple. He was in love and happy. As he passes a tram stop, a tram rumbles up on its rails, a transportation newness hardly 3 years old, shiny yellow and electric. Commuters rush forward to get on it. Commuters hurry to get off it. He avoids them all, except one, into whom he crashes. After a quick interaction, in which mutual apologies are proffered and accepted, he moves on. The sidewalk has several raised cobblestones, but he glides over them easily. His foot strikes the leg of a café chair. It is bumped, nothing more. Death took Dora and Gaspar one unyielding step at a time, the doctor summoned by his uncle expending his skills to no avail. First a sore throat and fatigue, followed by fever, chills, aches, painful swallowing, difficulty breathing, convulsions, a wild-eyed, strangled losing of the mind, until they gave out, their bodies as gray, twisted, and still as the sheets.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?